Hey, what's up guys? Sir Emanon here, back with another episode of Road to 1000 DuelingBook rating. Once again, I'll be playing my older version of Lunalight Time Thief, so this is another archived game from about a month ago. And I'm going to be up against Paleozoic Frogs today, which is not a very meta matchup, but it is definitely a rogue pick that some players are definitely going to be experimenting with, especially at like regionals and stuff, so it might be something you guys are running into. And yeah, that's why I think it's a good showcase. And even though my opponent doesn't actually ever stick a toad in this matchup, it's a pretty good demonstration of just how to play through back row that aren't floodgates. Because this deck has a really good time against those types of matchups, because you can just commit resources into breaking your opponent's board and picking apart your opponent's back row one by one. And this is a very good example of how to do that. But yeah, just before we get into it, my spring break for school actually did get extended by about a week, so I will have more time to upload videos for you guys, but obviously that is due to the coronavirus. So just stay safe out there, guys. I know every country is sort of handling the pandemic a bit differently, but just practice good hygiene and just stay safe, be careful out there. No reason to like really panic, but just obviously be on the lookout, be mindful, be cautious, and just stay alert. But anyways, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the gameplay. So we win the die roll and we go first. And our hand is pretty good, but I'm about to play in kind of a strange sort of way. It's simply because of the way that I kind of approach the deck. With my older build, I really place a high emphasis on Gamma. And just like whenever I would draw it, I would just try and play around like things like main deck Nibiru as much as possible. I thought that would be kind of like more of a trend back in back when this game was played. So the meta has definitely shifted since then. Things like main deck Joel were a thing as well. But yeah, I really like every time I would draw Gamma and like a playable hand, I would just make sure that Lambda was one of the first things I summoned so that I didn't lose to Nibiru. Obviously, I will tell you exactly how would play this hand differently, because I'm really looking back in this game. I really am not a fan of how I play this hand, and I would do it a lot differently. So starting off, this is all pretty much the same, right? Like you just get Chicken Tiger. It is unfortunate that I draw Flyback here, and that's like one of the main reasons why I don't really like the card, just because it's like a brick, and also it makes Perpetua a lot weirder, especially when you draw Winder, because like with Winder you want to search retrograde, but like at the same time you won't have a trap to put under the redoer, so it makes redoer a lot less valuable. So it's just like a really awkward position. But we're just gonna go ahead and go through the motions here. But as I mentioned, I am just gonna go straight up into Lambda to try and play through and respect to the main deck Nibiru that I am always afraid of when back when I was playing this deck the way I was. Yeah, so the way I would do it now is just to go for 4 Strix. Do the normal line where you search Zephyrus and then use Winder to detach your other material and then get Martin out of the grave, so you have 3 materials for Curious. And then even if I wanted to, I could still go Lambda afterwards. Like I could revive another thing off the Tiger that I bounced back and then go into Lambda instead of Appaloosa, which Appaloosa is what I would do now. But like even with this kind of hand, with this build, like I could have done it that way and that would have been a lot more economical. Because Curious would have sent another Perfume, I would have gotten another Tiger and gotten Zephyrus Grave, so I would have had a board of a Lambda plus Redo plus Perpetua. If I were to do it this way, obviously Perpetua would have been kind of an iffy point if I played just 1 Flyback and 1 Retrograde, because this is going to fetch a Retrograde. So if those are the only traps I was running, then like Perpetua gets a lot less value. So I probably would have ended on something like, I don't know, a Redoer plus Lambda plus another rank 4, something like a Dweller or Evil Swarm Nightmare or something, depending on what build I was running, because this was around the time where I was just kind of tinkering with a lot of the ratios in the extra deck, and like different time thief ratios in the main decks. So things were changing pretty much on the daily when I was practicing this sort of build on the ladder back then. But regardless, that is not the play that I did, and I in fact went for a much weaker play. Weaker in the sense that the first turn board is like just not really that good. Granted, it's only ending on 1 less rank 4, but it just kind of like has the Winder sitting there kind of awkwardly not doing anything. But it still is the 2 interruptions of Retrograde and Gamma, which is like fine, but depending on the matchup, like it sometimes isn't enough. Which is why I think that like nowadays the approach that I have is better, where like you don't have to focus on just like juggling certain resources for Lambda. I mean, granted, again, I could have just played it in such a way again where I wouldn't have had to fear it that much and just go for the overall more economical play of just getting a second Tiger in the circulation and just having the extra rank 4 on board. But indeed, that is not what I did. So we're just going to go ahead and move forward with what I did do, which is tag out Redoer, triggering Martin to grab a Serenade Dance here. So yeah, the good thing about this play, especially against like this kind of matchup, is that it allowed me to conserve Zephyros. So that was just an extra bonus to be able to use to clear his back row. Alright, so I go ahead and grab Gamma. And in Summer Phase, I go ahead and pick up a Canadia, so now I know the matchup. And as soon as he drops Extravagance, my only thought is like the only real thing that I'd be afraid of is if he just ripped a evenly like for turn if he had in his opening hand. But like otherwise, I didn't really fear it too much. And you can see that I still wasn't respecting Lightning Storm, just because like I still wasn't used to playing against that card. So yeah, like you'll see again like later on in future replays that I play around Lightning Storm like all the time. It's just something that I needed to get used to, and I wasn't used to yet at this point. So definitely, it kind of just shows, and it's kind of funny for me to look back on these replays and sort of laugh at my own gameplay here, because definitely not respecting Lightning Storm is not the right move. But I do decide to fire off the Retrograde here, which obviously looking at his hand is like the right move, but I don't think it's necessarily that bad. It just kind of depends. Like, what are the odds that Paleozoic is main decking evenly or main decking like Mystic Mine? Like a lot of the Paleo builds that I see typically aren't maining those cards. Like I know that you can main those cards if you want to, but yeah, just from what I've seen and from my experience, Paleo doesn't tend to main those, so that's why I decided to just fire it off. But yeah, just didn't get punished here, luckily. So we get a draw off the Redoer in the end phase, and we get another draw for turn. And again, we didn't use our Zephyr yet, so that's just more ways for us to be able to just get resources to push through his back row. So we have to contend against an Olenoides, a Canadia, a World Legacy Bestower, which basically just sends any Link monster on your opponent's field to the grave. So not applicable in every matchup, but it's good in stuff like this where you can just send. Especially stuff like Boral Sword, that's like pretty funny. Like if your opponent overcommits, you just send it. But I feel like a card like Compulsory Evacuation Device is just much more, it's much more flexible and versatile than a card like this. But it's still pretty cool to have as an option. It is a trap trick target as well. The same with Compulsory. But anyways, he has also Solemn Judgment and a Paleozoic Dynamiscus that he can't use right now. So really it's just 4 life back row at the moment. And we're just going to try and chew through it one by one. So we pick up a Call by the Grave for turn. And basically at this point, what I could have done was I could have just gone straight into battle phase. Like I could like normal summon Chick and then go battle phase, because even though it's not lethal damage, it's a lot of damage. Or I could have gone something like, I don't know, use like a couple of monsters in grave and then just like, just push for damage that way and hope that it's like good enough. Here in Standby phase, I contemplate using Redoer, and I decide not to because I don't want to lose it to a Solemn Strike. I know you guys can't see the chat, but I said in the standby phase there, like I was thinking. But yeah, I didn't want to lose Redoer to a strike, because Redoer is one of those cards that's really, really good against the control matchups, just because it's like a persistent threat that your opponent has a hard time clearing. I know like you have to continually put monsters underneath it, but again, I didn't want to like lose it to strike. But it's just like such a valuable card, and I have a trap underneath it, so if my opponent ever did draw something like a swap frog, then like that would be a good time to utilize it, or at least just try and force something, because like this is the turn where I'm going to try and force my opponent's strikes anyway with like all the back removal I have in the extra deck. So like ideally, even if I don't kill him this turn, the goal is just to play Redoer control, and he won't have an answer to it because I would have forced out all his other back rows. So like that's the motivation behind me not using Redoer there. And again, like I could have just used like Tiger to bring back stuff, and like normal summon a Chick, and then like overlay with some of the Lunalight pieces into rank 4s, and then just try and go battle phase and see if that's like good enough to actually just randomly win the game. But I go into 4-6 instead, so like my thought process here, I guess, is just to try and force out the back row first. I think if I was to play this game now, I would just try and go battle phase like earlier. But here, the way I did, I don't think was necessarily that bad. It just kind of like is weaker to like just higher impact removal cards like compulsory or like strike and stuff. Because like, at least if he compulses this kind of board, like if I go battle phase, then I'll still have the removal options in the extra deck to try and pick apart the rest of the board. So I think that going to battle phase would have been the better play here. But that is a lesson to be learned and something that I would do differently than what I did in this game. But yeah, I go ahead and 4-6 actually resolves. I'm surprised he didn't actually Canadia this. I think Canadiaing it would have been beneficial for him because that denies me an extra basically 2 bodies for free. And it like simultaneously puts like his Paleo in grave, so he can like use his other cards to like revive the other Paleos to like wall up and stuff, or just use later on to go into Toad. But yeah, he opts to just let that go through. So now I'm gonna actually start trying to destroy stuff. I believe I normal the chick and then I go into Phoenix. So yeah, Phoenix here, I believe I target his Olenoids, and he's going to chain it, popping the Tiger, which is a little bit unfortunate because obviously I hadn't used Martin yet, or I haven't used the Zephyr set either. So the plan was, of course, to just utilize Tiger and those monsters to push through more back row. Not the end of the world though, because I do have the Serenade Dance. So Serenade will be the one to bring out the Tiger, and that would be the plan right there. Before doing that though, I go into Unicorn just to fish out other back row. I pitch one of the Gammas because, you know, I already had one, so I had 2 rather. So he's gonna Book of Moon now the Redoer, which obviously I can just flip right up. So it wasn't really a big deal for me, and that's why I think that I should have used Canadia on the 4-6, because that would have actually done something to stifle my ability to push. Whereas this kind of just doesn't really do anything. Like he would have gotten the Olenoides to, you know, block an attack if he used any of these other cards, or if he used Bestowo in particular. But this way it just doesn't really get value out of Canadia, and it just kind of like goes for free. So yeah, here I use Serenade Dance, and that actually cleared the way for me to go for this Tiger play. Because if you Book of Moon this Tiger here as well, like even if you didn't book the 4-6, like this being booked would have also just like stopped a lot of my pushing power. So yeah, I definitely think that using it on the 4-6 would have been the correct play. But I use Zephyrs to bounce the Tiger back to my hand, and I go ahead and scale Tiger. He doesn't negate it with Judgment, which I find to be a bit interesting, just because, again, I haven't used Martin yet, so that would have cut me off of 3 monsters, and that still would have been a good deterrent against like my ability to push, as well as like my follow-up, right? Because like this, like he already knows that like this is going to be just the way that I come back into the game. Like he can kind of see just where this game state is going, just with like this Tiger and the other Tiger just like getting me so far as like the ability to push through his board. So that was kind of just interesting that he just didn't choose to bother with it. I guess he was worried about me killing him too, which I guess was also fair, because I could have just flipped this up and then all these monsters would have been mostly enough to attack for game. Well, actually no, he still had Bestowal, so yeah, he still had a defense like mechanism, so to speak. He opts not to chain the Canadian in his graveyard because, like, I guess he's just trying to conserve a Paleo so he can like use more in his turn. But yeah, I have Martin in grave still as well, so it's just like more bodies. And then I believe I overlay into an Abyss Dweller. This is just to stop like future turns a Paleo plays. Like if he top decks like a Swap Frog, it can stop Ronin Totem and stuff. I can flip the Redoer obviously because it wasn't summoned that turn. So I just go ahead and go in for a fair amount of damage here. We're not going to kill him this turn, but we have Tornado Dragon as well as like Redoer to stop a play. And we also have Dweller, so he accidentally takes too much damage. But yeah, it's not lethal, but it's pretty good. And I opted again not to use Redoer. I think here I should have used it because like definitely he probably would have striked something like Tornado Dragon, especially because like that's a card that is like just a lingering threat if you let it go on the field. So I probably shouldn't have played around Strike there. but I guess I decided to anyway. Or the thought would have been just to like prevent him from getting more Paleos in grave, which I guess is a thing, but not really that consequential. He drops his main deck Sphere Mode, which I mean normally would kind of suck, but I don't feel too bad about it. And then here I just go into battle phase. I think I should have at least tried to like force out another back row. I might have been out of back row options at this point. Yeah, because I think this was one of the moments where I didn't play Firefighting Darumidal. Like now I play it in pretty much every build. I think it's like too important of a card in like certain circumstances. But yeah, I believe this is one of the times where I wasn't playing Darumidal. So yeah, I guess I was just out of like actual back row outs at this point. So I decided to just go battle phase and see if that was enough. Because he technically could have still had like real back row. Or at the very least, something you just flip up and like chain a Paleo to. But in this case, he luckily didn't have either. So if I were to play this game again, I would like at least, you know, normal summon like Winder to, you know, be able to like go through a Paleo. Because like at the very least, like if he has something to, you know, use to block and attack, then I want something to at least still threaten lethal, obviously. So yeah, going straight to battle phase. Not sure if that's the move there. I think I did that. It's funny because I was saying that the last turn I should have gone to battle phase early, and this time I think I should have committed more resources. But yeah, you can see my kind of thought process like now as compared to when I actually played these games. But still, he didn't have anything, so we end up taking that game, and we're gonna go into game 2 here. So he's obviously gonna choose to go first, and we have a really insane hand here. His hand is like not like super impressive, but it does have disruptions here. He's obviously very much threatened by side deck cards like Evenly, Lightning Storm, and Twin Twister. So he has Judgment and Dark Bribe and Waking the Dragon. So these are all like very much insurance cards, but he didn't draw any of his engine. So pretty much he's going to just set all his cards and pass. He's not really afraid of like any of the side cards that I mentioned because he has like a bunch of different answers to them. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go for Tenki and grab a Search for Emerald Bird. I just want to have as many cards in my hand, and if I get lucky and draw into one of the back row removal like the cards that I set it in, then like at least that'll, you know, just force out things guaranteed. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and pick up a second Perfume off the Emerald Bird and a Serenade Dance off the Yellow Martin. So we are in a really good position. Like every single card in our hand is just straight gas. So I just fire off the Nessie and hope to just, you know, get an extra extender and see how far we can get. We draw another normal summon in the form of Armageddon Knight, which does suck. There are a lot of times nowadays where I just side out Armageddon Knight because again, going second, like you don't want to bulk up on too many normal summons. And in this kind of matchup, like there are certain matchups where you are fine with Armageddon Knight being stopped, but like this kind of matchup, the back row removal tends to be a lot higher impact than something like a hand trap. Like Ash on this is a lot less impactful than something like a strike or like, you know, something to that effect. So yeah, like for back row matchups specifically, this is like a lot weaker of a summon. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and grab our Tiger Search here. And he does decide to go ahead and Dark Bribe this time. And I draw into another dead card, but it's okay. I'm just like accruing resources at this point. So yeah, I go ahead and use Perfume here, and we're gonna keep trying to just pick through his back row. Go for a Tornado Dragon, which is obviously scary because he has Waking the Dragon. So if he has Waking for something like a Last Warrior from Another Planet, that would be very problematic because I don't have anything in this hand that can actually deal with that. As you can see in both of these games, this deck has a really easy time chewing through sort of like point disruptions, like 1-for-1s, things like Crackdown, things like Strikes, Judgments, just like like 1-for-1 type of answers, just like responses. But Floodgates are an entirely different story where it's a lot harder to actually play through things like Summon Limit. In certain cases, there can be only one can be an issue depending on the hand. And again, things like Last Warrior brought out by Waking the Dragon would be a huge issue. So I do get fortunate that I don't actually snipe the Waking the Dragon here, and I instead hit Crackdown, which is a card that he wouldn't have had the opportunity to actually use, which is quite fortunate for me. We go ahead and go into Phoenix, and I get lucky again where I hit the Judgment. He doesn't Judgment the summon because he's hoping that I'll hit the Waking the Dragon, which is like honestly respectable. Like I can respect that. But yeah, at this point, like the game is effectively over because I'm just gonna shuffle away the Waking the Dragon with a Unicorn, and then even if I can't kill him, I can make somewhat of a board of like Appaloosa plus like Time Thief cards or like Dweller. I already used Tornado, but like I can still go like Appaloosa, and I didn't use Zephyrs or Martin yet, so I can go like Tiger Summon something back, bring out Unicorn, shuffle back the Waking the Dragon, and then I don't believe I used Emerald Bird either, and I still have Serenade Dance, so I could have used like I could have gone into Appaloosa plus Redoer plus Perpetua to get a trap underneath as well. So like this would have been effectively the game anyway. So he does decide to concede there. So a bit of luck in terms of not hitting the Waking the Dragon. Because depending what he brings out with it, that could be devastating. If he brings out Last Warrior, that's really bad. If he brings out what's it called, Exterio, that could be bad, but it's also like not the end of the world because I could have just attacked over it with Borosword, since I could have like gone Serenade Dance and then like Zephyrs could have bounced Tenki and that could have made Borosword to attack over it. Same with Ultimate Falcon. Ultimate Falcon would have been like even better for me because I would have just done all my plays and then like attack over it. But Last Warrior specifically would have had to have been the card. We don't know what his target is because I can't see them unfortunately on DuelingBook. But assuming that there's going to be Last Warrior, then that would have for sure cost me the game. So it is definitely fortunate on my part that I didn't hit the Waking the Dragon. But you know, you got to force out the back row somehow. So I think that like it was fine. And yeah, that's actually going to just be a good showcase again of how you can play through, you know, a certain back row. I think in both cases, in both games, they played through a fair amount of back row. So you know, even though he didn't ever get to like establish his Toad, it still is, you know, just a good showcase of how to like, without drawing like Twin Twister or Red Rebooter, things like that, you know, use the engine to actually play through certain types of these boards. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Feel free to subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links in the description as always. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will catch you in the next video. See you guys!